from the abuse of power.
Let's get a view from inside the tech world now. We're joined live by Chris Harper, CEO of the software technology company ZippedScript. Thanks so much for being with us, Chris. When we heard those concerns that President Biden was talking about last night, his fears around this concentration of power and wealth and the control of technology in the hands of just a few, a tech industrial complex, as he described it, are those concerns valid, do you think? Do too few have too great a control?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Katrina. I think the concerns are absolutely valid. And I think as tech leaders in the industry, we have to ensure that we're adhering to democratic principles and we're listening to the citizens and we're not bending completely to governments.
And when you add that balance of extreme wealth and power over so much technology that controls so much of our lives now, but when you add into that access to the president, which is what Joe Biden was referencing there, do you expect to see in the next administration so-called big tech having an outside influence on presidential decisions?
You know, it's difficult to say. I can't be certain on that. I think big tech always has had an influence on governments, whether or not it's this administration or the previous administration. I think it's up to the leaders of the tech industry and the citizens of the countries to pay attention and hold the people accountable that control these companies. And I think it's for the leaders like myself to make sure we're listening to the citizens and we're not doing things for governments and bending, like I said before, completely to administration.
And when you talk about holding, owners and big companies accountable, how do you do that? What sort of controls would you like to see in place there, or can there even be such controls?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there can be controls, and I think it starts once again with the leaders of the tech companies. I think, what makes their companies great are the human beings that use them. So if they stray from listening to the citizens, the users, and the people that use those products, I think you'll see people stray away from using the products. So I think it's critical that on some level, the people speak up on the platforms and say what they're uncomfortable with or say what they're happy with. And I think that will always dictate the decision of the leaders of those tech organizations.
Now, President Biden also mentioned the move away from fact-checking with some of these social media platforms, and obviously most recently we had an announcement from Facebook, from Meta, that it was going in that direction. Is that also concerning for you? Is that something that tech companies and platforms should have responsibility for?
It's a touchy subject for sure. I think, during the Biden administration, we had people bend to the thoughts of that administration, and now we're seeing, certain leaders bend to the thoughts of the new administration. I think a lot of people in the United States are aware of that, and I think misinformation is definitely an issue, but I think it's something that can be mitigated, can be monitored, and I think really out there beliefs could be questioned, could be blocked. But I think free speech is something that makes America a great place. So we'll see what happens with it. But once again, I would go back to this. I think it's the users of the platform that can change the way the platform operates. Because if there's no users, the leaders of those platforms will change and they will go in a different direction.
Okay, Chris Harper, CEO of ZippedScript. Thanks so much for joining us on BBC News with your insights.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me, Katrina.
Now, improving weather conditions and lighter winds across Southern California are giving exhausted fire crews some respite as they